The cover of the book is coated in a thick layer of dust. The sprayed edges have warped and are marred with decay. Writing implements lie in disarray, and an autoquill, an ornately shaped inkwell, and paperweight, as if the diarist had made the last entry before leaving in their secret haste. The sturdy, well-crafted leather with expensive embossing has hardly faded with the effects of time. The von Valencius coat of arms stamped on its embellishment with large gems. The book is covered in many scratches and scuffs, as if the book has survived more than a few adventures. At the bottom of the cover of the name, Sebrian von Valencius, is written in florid script. It appears to be a personal diary. The pages are filled with cramped writing, along with blots, crossing outs, and sweeping underlines that reveal the owner's passionate nature. The ink is as faded and decayed as the pages themselves, the thin parchment crumbling to dust at any careless touch. All I can be certain of is that the portion of my design that most of my retinue would consider overly bold will not leave the confines of these chambers. It is rather amusing that this personal laboratory has ultimately become a secret sanctuary, to whose walls I can tell most of my ideas and research. At times, I sense that the esteemed Exalt-117 is entirely aware of its existence, but the Archmagos has always possessed that rare combination of human qualities, a sense of tact coupled with the ability to keep other secrets. The stream of thought is cut short. The next page of the diary has been ripped out. The siege is over. Can I? No, it just goes to the bottom. The siege is over, but it takes more than a single battle won to snuff the flames of war. They are showering me with their artless praise. They are lauding me as the savior of the dynasty. Yet I cannot shake the thought that it may be my hand that signed its death warrant. What if the artifact in front of me now is not enough? Yet the place where I found this relic may hold still more. The God Emperor willing, I shall find them. No one must know about the cluster I discovered. No one must interfere in my search. I will order Ambrosio not to record the warp routes in the archives of his esteemed house. And should I fail, then perhaps my descendants might finish what I started. The dynasty's private cogitator on Dargonis seems ancient and loyal enough to me to entrust it with the coordinates. The access identifier is Laria. This will open the secret area of the machine spirit's memory. I hope I will be the one who reads this journal upon my return. I hope I will destroy this evidence of my inexcusable faintness of heart. The remaining pages of the diary are utterly untouched. Perhaps the cogitator in the palace of Dargonis mentioned in the last entry can tell you more. Off we go then to Dargonis. Jenner wipes the sweat from his brow and then sets to drying his fleshy hand with a silk handkerchief. Your ladyship, has your search been successful? Have you learned anything about the fate of the mysterious Sebrian? I found a portrait of a nobleman holding an unusual sword on one of them. On the walls. What gave you the notion that the blade depicted more than just a ceremonial weapon? Aldari blade, ancient one at that. Xenos relic without a doubt. The high factotum pales slightly and looks away. I see. This is a strong indicator that the blade's wielder was a most distinguished individual. Even among rogue traders, not everyone could afford to possess such an item. The fellow in the portrait was rather handsome and sumptuously dressed. She noticed he was handsome. I love this so... I wish I could tell you how much I love the fact that she is caught up on the fact that he was hot. I see. Alas, this sheds no light on who he really was. Although an elegant appearance is indeed a hallmark of nobility, and you are no small proof of that. Oh, thank you so much for noticing. Enough about the blade. Very well. What else have you managed to learn, Lord Captain? After a thorough search, I found a handwritten diary signed by him. That's something. One can learn a great deal about an individual from their personal writings. That is, of course, assuming he was sufficiently truthful in his account. What did the diary entries tell you? There's the secret chamber. I believe he was overly interested in radical ideas. Final entry tells of a siege of Dargonis, but such a historical event is not in the chronicles. The factotum takes an absent-mindedly twirling of the autoquill in his hand. Let me think. That is strange indeed. I have studied the history of the dynasty in enough detail to recall all the major battles of the last millennium, and none took place on the capital world. I found reference to a cogitator in the palace of Dargonis. Wonderful! You should definitely go to Dargonis and convey that code to the cogitator's machine spirit. The secret chamber of a sanctuary, and This secret chamber was his sanctuary and laboratory. I believe that he was overly interested in radical ideas. That explains a great many things, in particular the fact that no mention of him has survived. A tense furrow forms on Yenris's brow. I suppose there must be something dark and nefarious behind all this. Far more than we can guess. Thank you for the information, Your Ladyship. That is everything I managed. Your thoughts? Your Ladyship, I imagine that Sebrian was a man of remarkable talents and extraordinary destiny. I regret I was fated to never meet him in the flesh. The life form Genitor Forense is extremely disturbed by the discovered addition to the genealogical tree of the von Valentius dynasty. I request permission to make the appropriate changes to Sector Bionica archives. It seems that Sebrian von Valentius was indeed the one erased from the official chronicles. I wonder what deed prompted such a step. I do hope that, when the machine spirit of the ancient cogitator on Darkona sheds light on his mystery, we will not have to consign what we learned to oblivion as well. Us consign it to oblivion? What? No. No. We're going to Dargonis right now. I hope you all packed for Dargonis, because that's where we're going. We have no time for anything else. We must go to Dargonis. I know we should go talk to our new companion and stuff like that, but there's an ancient cogitator somewhere on my world, in my house somewhere. Have I even seen this ancient cogitator before? I don't know. But we are gonna be smart and safe before we leave. Because what if something bad happens? No. Marzai's just gonna have to wait. I'm sorry. The man's just gonna have to wait a few more minutes. If you're new here, I have a small obsession with Marzai. I know that's heretical. I know that that's heresy. I am well aware of what kind of person I am, trust me. But, you know, this is where we are. I have so many points, please. I have so many. I'm just making this easy. Okay. Now here. Is it? What? No! I didn't mean that. Whoops. I know how to use this map, okay? I've only put like a gazillion 365 million hours into this game. I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. We're in trouble. Here we go. Now we're gonna quick save because this is Lello. Okay, we're saved. Oh no. Hail, Rogue Trader. Aegon Sonora's voice fills the channel. As you know, there are no unsolvable dilemmas, only poorly formulated questions. You strike me as someone who knows how to ask the right questions, and so I would like to invite you to participate in my scientific research. Will you honor me with your presence in the Sector Bionica? I am intrigued. I shall proceed to you directly. Blessed are those who heed the call of the Omnissiah. I look forward to our conversation, Rogue Trader. Oh? So soon? I mean, I'm fine with it. Trust me, I'm fine with it. I just wanted to go see my cogitator. That's fine. Oh, hello. On the operating tables, several bodies are laid out. Their mutilations exposed to the chill air. Their chests and abdominal cavities yawn wide, excavated of their augmented organs, which now nestle in flasks, still connected to the bodies by tubes and cables. Judging by the rhythmic contractions, the organs are still functioning. Aegon hovers beside the table, assiduously taking measurements and jabbing mechadendrites into the extracted organs, or inside the bodies. Nuncius keeps stoic vigil nearby, an impassive observer of this grotesque spectacle. Nuncius, will you shed some light on these experiments? Nuncius obediently turns his built-in lumen, illuminating the subjects on the table. It seems he is unwilling to divulge subtleties of the experiment, silently ceding the right to answer to Aegon. The manipulus, his massive bulk spins around to face you, his eyes dancing with excitement. Rogue Trader, your arrival has triggered a cascade of impulses in the prefrontal cortex of my brain. Delight. That's the word I was searching for. I love this man so much. Delight. That's what he was searching for, everyone. Cast off your worries. The subjects of these experiments have been preserved through a combination of alchemical compounds, local transactions of the motive force, and moderately invasive augmentation procedures. In other words, all three are very much alive. Throughout this speech, Aegon's mechadendrites continue their manipulation of the bodies. The crux? All three organisms were found in critical condition. I asked myself, is their usefulness and productive capacity truly at an end? Nonsense. To move from a state of being to a state of non-being entails no benefits or meaning. I personally ensured that their vital functions were preserved. Our goal could not be simpler. To vanquish death by creating the perfect, righteous man, which I have dubbed as the Triasomata. Needless to say, the procedure is highly experimental and demands certain looseness of the interpretation in regards to augmentation canons, as well as the integration of components that would incur the Imperium's disapproval. But the Omnissiah teaches us to surmount any obstacle in the name of knowledge, especially when pursuing a goal of such magnitude. Let's take a closer look at the bodies. 3 men of differing ages lie before you, young, middle-aged, and old. If you look closely, you can see that they still have a semblance of life about them. Each one has had the top of his skull delicately removed, and electrodes are now attached to the blush-hued brain tissue latticed with blood vessels. That's not a description anybody needed today. Lord help. Below the neck is one continuous gaping wound. The edge is spread and held in place by a complex system of clamps. The pathologically emaciated build and spindly, almost transparent limbs indicate that this is a voidborn. Glancing into the open rib cage reveals signs of damage. The sac around the heart is torn. The vessels have been reinforced with metal staples. The poor youth's heart is half augment. Both ventricles have been replaced by pumps, which are connected to opaque tubes that run into the Medicaid device's reservoir. The young man's neck is tattooed with his Bay code and job title. It seems he's a common worker from the lower decks. With his well-developed musculature and strong bones, this man presents a stark contrast to the others. His left arm, along with the parts of his shoulder, shreds of major vessels protrude from the neatly trimmed stump. They have been closed off with bizarre-looking end caps that are wired to a metal arm lying nearby. The Enforcer's emblem is tattooed on the man's neck, topped with the Von Valencius coat of arms. And lastly, the old man. The old man's eyelids are closed and his face is serene. He might appear to be sleeping peacefully, were it not for the deathly pallor of his face and his monstrously mangled neck. He had been fitted with a voice implant at some point previously, but it had recently been wrenched from the unfortunate man's body. Every so often, the metal hose now serving as his trachea emits a reedy whistling sound. He's clutching something tightly in his right hand. It's an ornate set of prayer beads, the kind used by ordained servants of the ecclesiarchy. Absorbed in his work, Eogan pauses for a moment, listening to Nuncius, and then glances at the cogitators. Shakes his head. No, dearest colleague, that would be excessive. So what is the Triasomata? The triune essence. The amalgam of the best constituent parts of 3 individuals who have excelled themselves in service. Metaphysically, it consists of 3 beings: mortal flesh, ferrum sanctum, and righteousness. By creating the perfect combination, we will achieve a totality that is vastly superior to its components in its qualities and usefulness to the Imperium. What is the practical significance of this? Please help. In their current state, each of the subjects is doomed. I mean, I feel like we all knew that, given the fact that they're entrails are just kind of hanging out in tubes, and you know, they are hooked up the way that they are, and that their brains are exposed. But I mean, I'm not going to question the scientist. But just as the parts of a dying mechanism can be combined again to create a functioning machine, so too can these subjects be combined into a single entity, granting them continued life through the correct configuration of ferrum sanctum and the organic components of all 3. The only thing I require to continue the experiment is a solution to my dilemma. Which subject should serve as the basis? Eogan turns his burning gaze to you. How did you create this out of the 3 of them? There are strong arguments in favor of each. The janitor raises his clawed mechadendrite and begins flexing its manipulators in time with his words. Firstly, they have all performed their service impeccably, which suggests outstanding human qualities. Secondly, each body is robust enough to receive the blessing of the Omnissiah. And third, there is no chance of salvation for any of them. And third, they're all doomed, so they're perfect. Why are they so horribly mutilated? 2 reasons. First, they were previously fatally injured. I have performed numerous rites and manipulations to ensure that each was able to avoid a fatal outcome. Second, I have been conducting necessary measurements to fully assess the compatibility of the configurations of Ferrum Sanctum and organic components from an optimal experiment result. This often requires extraction of said components. No, we're not talking about heresy, not today. Why is it so important to you? Angry spark zips across the piston in the manipulus's beard. He floats higher, turning his glowering gaze on the sector ceiling. Because I cannot abide the senseless waste of potential. I cannot accept that a foolish accident and the fragility of organic flesh can, in an instant, deprive the Imperium of worthy servants. If I am able to extend their service, I will do so, whatever the cost. So, like, this is, in essence, Frankenstein's monster, right? Like, this is kind of not, I don't want to say like another retelling, but this is what we're kind of getting into. And his whole reasoning is that he doesn't want to waste somebody's potential. And that's actually not coming from like a madman's perspective. I mean, it is, but it isn't. In that it's actually kind of sweet. And these people all shouldn't have died when they did. Basically, he doesn't think that they had done everything that they could in life. He wants to give them another chance. And that's sweet in his kind of way. Drifting lower once more, Eogan calmly asks, any more questions plaguing you? I hate that I failed that. What role am I to play in this? A decisive one. I can detail the composition and humor ratio of each experimental subject, measure the mass of their frontal lobe, or answer with a picosecond accuracy how often their heart contracts. But how does one calculate a man's righteousness? How do you weigh diligence of service? You will help me answer these questions by choosing the basis for the Triasomata. Your assessment will be the linchpin upon which this experiment hinges. Why not ask Nuncius? My dearest colleague and I have more than one concilium, but we have never reached a consensus. Nuncius is a skeptic, and our position rarely align, but we tend to reach a compromise in the end. Alas, not on this occasion. The only thing we agree on is the need for a third opinion. Only you can furnish us with said opinion. This is an incontrovertible fact. What do you understand by the term righteousness? The combination of countless factors that unite the thoughts and deeds of a person into the quintessence of the worth of his being within his specific society. I am at a loss to provide a less broad definition, but no matter. Much more important is how you define righteousness. The subject you choose will determine the answer to that question. What is it that Nuncius disagrees with? The servo skull hovers in a haughty silence, which is broken only by Eogan's sigh of exasperation. Pressing his lips together, the manipulus grunts out. To condense his overly pedantic response, Nuncius does not consider righteousness to be in any way a significant factor in this research. Had I any less respect for my dearest colleague, I would say that this constitutes an egregious misunderstanding of the concept of the Triasomata, and is indicative of extreme close-mindedness, but such remarks are beneath me. The pettiness between these two. I love them so much. Why not just combine all three? Yeah. Three minds cannot coexist in one body, setting aside the fact that even I would not be capable of achieving such a feat in practice. In theory, it would certainly lead to complete deconstruction of all three minds. Some less flexible thinkers might even consider it heresy. You sense some agreement in Nuncius' silence. As my dearest colleague rightly notes, we have encountered many such points of contention over the years. Before I make my choice, tell me the merits of each. The mechadendrite touches the table with the middle-aged man, Enforcer Lornique. He has diligently served on the ship since birth, participant in countless combat landings, where he was a model of valor and steadfastness. He was known on the lower decks for being tough, but fair. His last act of heroism was the rescue of an enforcer patrol by a number of workers on deck 515-E-2. Lornique placed his own body over a cracked grenade thrown from the crowd by a mutineer. Next, it is the old man, Preacher Cleophanes. Originally assigned to serve in the ship's reliquary, he rejected the luxury of the chapel in favor of an eternal pilgrimage on the decks where no servant of the ecclesiarchy had ever set foot. Through his example and word, he encouraged and instructed the outcasts and forgotten. Thousands of souls who would have otherwise have lost their faith and fallen into heresy came to know the word of the Emperor. It only took one to end Cleophanes' preaching for good. Madman attacked him during a sermon, managing to rip out the preacher's vocal implant before the crowd tore him apart. Finally, Aegon touches the void-born youth. Mikosh, ventilation shaft crawler. From sorting hub 10. He dutifully burned mold, slime, and vermin, and would be the first to climb into blocked ducts, risking his life to deliver recycled air into the sector. He was a true believer, never lamented his lot. On his final foray, he saved hundreds of workers by using his body to plug a hole in combustible gas pipe. The toxicity led to cardiac arrest and blood poisoning. Who will form the basis? So, I did play this on stream, by the way. I'm a little bit further on stream, but then obviously we're going to surpass stream very soon. But on stream, we picked the priest, and that was very interesting, but I would like to see something different. I'm kind of leaning towards the worker, only because he's younger, and so I feel like he might handle what's about to happen a little bit better. Not to mention, if he was, like, never lamented his lot and stuff like that, maybe he'll have more of the mental fortitude, you know? We'll find out. Aegon contemplates the half-dead man lying stretched out on the galvanized surface. The choice has been made, but will you deign to answer my question? Why him? I must know your thought process. No. He could have saved himself, but he chose to sacrifice himself for the sector. Selflessness is the highest expression of righteousness. Or, toiling for the glory of the Emperor is the duty of every person. Not everyone knows how to bear this burden without complaint. He bore... Oh! That's actually a really good one. Thus he is righteous. Aegon closes his organic eye in thought. Finally, he breaks into a smile. Thank you, Tessera. This is it, the solution to our dilemma. I'll begin the Triasomata procedure. May the organic flesh and sacred machinery be one. Here we go. 2 hours, 23 minutes have passed. With a barely audible crunch, Aegon's injector mechadendrite pierces the brain tissue. The man's face contorts in anguish and his back arches in a fit of spasms. His brow furrowing, the janitor delivers a powerful pulse of the motive force, and the unfortunate man drops limply back down on the table. Medtech priest manipulators dart between the three bodies, separating organs, augmetics, and limbs, and transplanting them to the new host. Discharges of energy corsicate around Aegon's hulking figure, growing brighter and brighter until the final flash leaves you temporarily blinded. When your vision returns, you see the manipulus carefully releasing the subject's limbs from their restraint. Procedure is complete. Somebody he gone crazy. The creature, which a second ago resembled a humanoid lump of bloody meat studded with metal, suddenly leaps up with unexpected vigor, tossing Aegon backwards and letting out an unintelligible howl of suffering. Before anyone can react, the amalgam man barrels towards the entrance of the Sector Bionica, filling the deserted corridors with his plaintive moans. Aegon stares after him in amazement. Impossible! The calculations were perfectly calibrated, all factors taken into consideration. Was the specimen defective? I must find the Triasomata immediately and determine what went wrong. Your combi crackles to life, carrying the Voxmaster's anxious voice. Lord Captain! An urgent report from Mr. Sarback. A strange creature resembling a malfunctioning servitor is headed towards the lower deck, shouting pleas that make reference to you and the janitor Febris. Enforcers have been dispatched to intercept it, but they assumed you would prefer to assess the situation personally. Thank you, Victus. We'll set out immediately. One way or another, we must see the experiment through to the end. This works for me. Poor guy. He wakes up and he's like, this isn't right. No. What are you going to do but run away? Nothing. Like, legitimately, like, bro was done. I don't blame him. Okay.
None shall stand in my way.
No. All right. I believe we should follow the blood. The blood is usually a good indicator of where we should go.
Watch out.
Hello, everyone. Lord Captain, we've got the beast cornered. Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate it. So he ended up in the exact same place, despite the fact that he was a different person, which I find really interesting. The Triasomata lies prostrate before the entrance to the bay. The Thane Aquila on the door, the only witness to his incoherent babbling. His hysterical wails of the righteous triune man are interrupted from time to time by the clanging of his augmented skull against the deck. A viscous mixture of blood and oil oozes from the staples on his forehead. His fingernails are chipped from his attempts to dig the implants out of his body. The young man stutters prayers interspersed with fearful lamentations to an unseen interlocutor. Lameness shows weakness of spirit, God Emperor. Let me get up and work. Spasms rock his body, and his already muddled speech turns into a frightening cacophony that barely sounds like language. Suddenly, the Triasomata pounds his head on the deck again and spews forth another medley of ragged sentences. Do I have a choice? Hunger's pawing at my door. I'll work my shift and die before I betray the dynasty, the spasm repeats. Aogen clucks his tongue in displeasure, worrying at a piston on his beard as he thinks. The subject left the Sector Bionica prematurely. Nuncius is right. I was so absorbed in the Triosomia procedure and its successful outcome that I made the mistake of unfastening the restraints before the psychological evaluation could be conducted. Rogue Trader, we must stabilize the Triasomata before the specimen is lost to us forever. How do we stabilize him? Just as a bandage binds a wound, a patch secures damaged steel. So can words heal a fractured mind. He's bewildered and frightened. He does not understand the gift that has been given to him. Talk to him. Okay, this is so... I did this on stream. It's so funny. Please tell me you're ready. Nuncius! Present me. The servo skull hovers haughtily without uttering a word. It is clear he thinks you need no introduction. Oh, thank you. Abelard scowling jealously at Nuncius mutters. He's jealous. Why is Abelard so jealous of Nuncius? It's so funny. No. It's a servo skull, and Abelard's jealous. Allow me, Lord Captain. The Triasomata before you stands Rogue Trader Tessa von Valencius, Lord Captain of this vessel and sovereign of its crew. Solely by her grace do you still live. One wrong word, one wrong movement, and I will personally call the enforcers down upon you. The mumbling and head thumping stop. The man shifts his clouded gaze to you, and you see recognition in his eyes. Oh, Lord Captain, I'm no layabout. I'll work my shift. That's no excuse for idleness, but my heart, give it back, I beg you. The young man digs broken nails into his chest augment and makes a pitiful attempt to rip it out. He breaks down weeping from side to side. Mikosh, can a person who sacrificed himself for others be without a heart? It may beat differently, but it does still beat. I believe in you and everyone you saved, and you believes in you too, do you? He clasps his trembling hand over his chest and smiles. I can feel it struggling. The Lord Captain believes? Sorting Hub 10, I won't bring shame. I'll work my shift. I won't betray the dynasty. The Triasomata stops. The poor man's shoulders slowly slump and convulsions steadily subside. His lucidity does not last long. The amalgam's eyes soon go blank, and his mouth stretches into a blissful smile. Rocking peacefully and drooling, he murmurs broken snippets from his former life and prayers to the Emperor. Absurd! Unacceptable! He scans the Triasomata, furiously pounding the keys on his microcogitator mounted upon his torso. You have succeeded in pacifying him, but the Triasomata is rejecting the attempts of the implant machine spirits to contain the cognitive entropy. Total personality degradation is inevitable. I must reassemble him. So that's enough. Let him be a blissful fool. Servitorize him. I don't want to servitorize this poor man. Do it again? My quiet oddity... No, we're not going to let him become an oddity on the ship. Tessera! No, leave this blissful fool be. Let the Medicaid the sector tend to him until the end. The Triasomata obediently allows himself to be led away. The man's eyes keep fixed on the Aquila, murmuring prayers until he is lost to your sight. The tech priest looks gloomier than a cloud. Rogue Trader, I am experiencing a cognitive block. I have analyzed every possible failure hypothesis and double-checked every step I made, and I have failed to identify a single mistake. The organic parts and the ferrum sanctum joined together perfectly. The brain was perfectly preserved. These complications should never have occurred, and yet the outcome cannot be denied. My calculations are perfectly correct. That is an incontrovertible fact. So the flaw in the condition or in the subject themselves? The worker enforcer priest have their own purpose. It's impossible to assemble them from a unified whole to fit all three roles and duties. People are divided into useful and useless. All three of your subjects were hiatus No. People are not machines. You tried to break people down into mechanical components. Your original hypothesis was flawed. The Manipulus's galvanic cell crackles nervously. My hypothesis is flawed? But it's inconceivable. Or have I strayed and committed heresy by believing that I can comprehend the nature of the machine god? by thinking that we are simpler creatures than him. Rogue Trader, I thank you for the contribution to our research. Nuncius and I can now call you a colleague in all earnest. I need to rethink, and discuss this new data with Nuncius. Please, find me on the bridge later. We must discuss the results of the experiment. All right. So that is what happens. So that happened. The prayer and stuff that he was saying and some of the things that he was muttering were different. But the outcome otherwise between, because I picked the same option because I do like this outcome, but otherwise, the path that it goes down is the same no matter who you pick. It's just, I think, the prayer to the God Emperor that they're muttering / what they're muttering about. So, the priest was just saying a whole bunch of, prayers and stuff like that, whereas the worker was worried about, Hab 10 and everything like that. So, now if you're curious, those are the main differences between the two. Now, interestingly enough, Aogen's down here, and I thought for some reason that's where Marzai usually lives. Ha ha ha. So I have questions. Does Marzai still live? Cause I thought he was here. Does he get moved over here now? Is that what it is? Cause I could have sworn Mr. Xenos was there, but you know what? I could see them they're gonna kill each other. Yep, that's what's gonna happen if they're next to each other.